Good morning and welcome to your favorite show, Jasiri, airing every weekdays at 10 a.m. right here on News Central TV. It's a show that brings you the stories that matter. It's the show where you hold bold and relevant conversations right at the heart of our communities. So today we're picking up a conversation we began on Monday with legal practitioner Liborous Oshoma. That discussion was interrupted by a live update from Abuja, but today we will return to it. The conversation around the death penalty in Nigeria. As we all know, the death penalty exists within Nigeria's legal system, but whether it truly belongs there is a question many Nigerians continue to wrestle with. Some see it as justice, swift, final, and necessary in the face of a violent crime. But, others see it as a dangerous power to place in a system where errors, inequalities, and prolonged trials are far too common. So today, we're moving beyond legal texts and court judgments. We're asking bigger questions. Does the death penalty actually prevent crime? Does it protect society? Or does it expose deeper cracks in fairness, accountability, and how much power the state should have over life itself? These conversations comes up much later in the show, but first.
Now yesterday was World Cancer Day, a day observed globally and dedicated to raising awareness about cancer prevention, early detection, and access to treatment for all. It is a day to share information, encourage early diagnosis, and remind us that behind the statistics are real people, real families, and real stories of resilience. Now, stories that push conversations around prevention, access to care, survival, and most importantly, hope. Cancer is no longer a death sentence for many people, especially when it is detected early and treated properly. However, it still remains one of the leading causes of death worldwide. Now, in Nigeria, many patients are still diagnosed at advanced stages, so when treatment options are limited. As the world marks World Cancer Day, health experts are warning about the dangers of late detection and stressing the urgent need for awareness, screening, and timely treatment. Now, News Central's Emmanuel Olubobokun reports.
Cancer rarely announces its arrival. It creeps in quietly, often unnoticed, until the signs become impossible to ignore. World Cancer Day, observed every 4th of February, draws global attention to a disease that continues to claim millions of lives, many from cancers that are preventable or treatable when detected early. In Nigeria, the reality is even more troubling. Late diagnosis, fear, stigma, and the high cost of treatment mean many patients seek medical help only after the disease has progressed. Breast, cervical, and prostate cancers remain among the most common and deadliest, leaving families devastated and communities in mourning.
Some people say, is it a death sentence? But the good thing is that some cancers can be curable or even prevented if they present on time. Okay, I know it's not easy. Cancer management can really be a bit heavy on the patients. I mean, it has to do with a lot of grief, pain, resilience, and hope. We should individualize these patients' cares. We should individualize their treatment, their problems, and make ourselves available to help them.
Yet, behind every diagnosis are stories of courage, resilience, and survival. Stories that challenge the belief that cancer is always a death sentence.
Mom Josephine asked me to be attending the meeting. Through that meeting, I came to the knowledge of cancer. Since then, I've been, preventing my skin. The experience is very, very bad. Some severe pains. At times, I won't be able to sleep. I will not be able to sleep. When that chemotherapy is done initially, maybe some few minutes, you start paining, you swell up. The thing will swell up. You bring out series of color. You can see now there's nothing there now. The chemotherapy have, clear everything. The one at the back, it got to some weeks or months before it can be healed with treatment, with drugs and injection.
Health experts say fear and silence remain some of cancer's deadliest weapons. They stress that regular screening, open conversations, and community support can significantly improve survival rates.
The cancer diagnosis is not a death sentence. If you catch it early, you can cure. If we have the screening culture, it will go a long way in the treatment outcome. Then our mindsets, there is no excuse for ignorance. We should all go out there, be our brother's keeper. You see people in this condition, or you've gone through this treatment and you saw that your treatment was successful, and you see somebody else in this kind of situation, encourage them and push them out. So by working on the modifiable risk factors that we have power over, we will have a better chance of preventing these cancers.
As the world marks World Cancer Day, the message is clear. Replace fear with knowledge, silence with action, and stigma with support. Because in the fight against cancer, awareness can mean survival, and early action can mean life. In Lagos, for News Central, Emmanuel Olubobukun.
You know, when we talk about the challenges that we face as a country with healthcare, we don't understand the gravity and the depth of this, except, and like I say, you can't understand it except you've walked the shoes, or you have someone who has suffered or who has been a victim of the Nigerian healthcare system. Cancer is just one of the diseases, ailments, deadly diseases, let me clarify, that is crippling everybody. In one way or another, one of us, maybe two of us, or maybe three of us, or maybe all of us has lost someone to cancer. And it is not a pretty sight.
It is.
Cancer breaks people down. It breaks the body down. It is not, oh, ladies and gentlemen, it is not, I don't think it leaves you the same.
No, it never does.
It doesn't.
It does.
And we can only, maybe you will say because I'm a doctor. Detection, you see, early detection. And doing your BMIs and
your routine checks.
You
basically
need to. If we go on the streets, maybe we should do a Jasiri on the streets and find out and ask people when last did they go and do a full medical checkup.
I think before you ask them that question, you would ask them when last did they have 3 square meals. I think that's where you begin. Honestly, every time I think about cancer, because I have known people who have battled, some have lost, some have survived. But one of the things that I find very painful in Nigeria is the expense. I know worldwide it might be very expensive to cure, but you know, in a country like ours where what is normal is abnormal already, you can imagine what people that have this kind of diagnosis have to go through to be able to access the kind of health care that they want.
Yeah.
Is it hospitals that cannot, is it general hospitals that cannot power their machines to even run an MRI or some of these very important tests that you have to do? That some of them will now have to refer them to private places.
And some don't want to go the extra mile. Why? Yeah. Because of the wages that they are getting.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. They will send them out to go and do the test outside. That comes to them at even a higher cost. And I'm wondering that when people are supposed to survive, we keep telling people that, oh, early detection. By the time you say you want to go and do tests or something, and some of them match you bill, you'll be like, is it not better I eat than go and do this test? But it's very important. Yes. Our healthcare system is not something we should continue to take with levity. We need to put a lot of, financial backing towards it to be able to combat this kind of sick disease. And many of them, they will tell you that early detection But imagine, I've seen people that even misdiagnosis is what brought them to where they are.
Yes.
A lot of them.
A lot of people. And you keep wondering that, why didn't they do the routine checks? Some will tell you that some of these tests are very expensive. So for them to recommend it, they must have suspected.
Let's not also forget the limited number of cancer centers. So for some who want to do it, they would have to probably leave where they are. Let's just say in far Maiduguri to come to Lagos before they're able to get. And then you come and then you're misdiagnosed. It doesn't make sense. You know, recently I had to tell someone came to Lagos for diagnosis and everything. And then they found, you know, cancer. It left where it was, moved to another place. And I was like, I had to calm the person down. And I was like, I don't think that I think you should pray about this. I don't think that you should take it all in. Only for me to go and check reviews and all that. And that particular center had one very poor review saying that the person said that they were misdiagnosed.
Did you not encourage the person to go for a second opinion?
I did. I told the person to go for a second opinion. I don't know if that person is willing to, but let's just, you know, wait and see. And let's not forget that yesterday was World Cancer Day, and the headlines, you know, there are lots of positive things that are being said on the headlines, but that is on paper because the government is promising 35 new machines, and there's a new $154 million deal to build, you know, cancer centers in Nigeria. But, you know, if you're a Nigerian family, you know, sitting down, you know, and, you know, hoping, how much hope will it take for you for all of these things to actually come to fruition? You know, we understand that, we need most of these things, the clinics, we need the money and everything. On paper, you know, the policy is fantastic, but what about on the ground? What is happening? We talked about brain drain. How many oncologists do we even have in Nigeria today? Right? We talked about brain drain. Everybody is tired. Everybody is leaving.
You know, everybody is leaving the country. And I saw, I don't know how true, I saw like a pay slip of some medical people that work in the hospitals. And you're like, how can people earn like this?
Oh,
and
you saw 25,000 naira. I saw it for nurses and all. I was
that
like,
it was something wrong, I'm saying. You can't tell me a lab technician or
no.
You know, assistant nurses are earning that low.
No, that's
Catherine,
a conversation.
It was below minimum wage. And I'm wondering that if I am one of these people, is it not better I'm selling pepper in the market? I'm making better profit.
See, that's a conversation for another day. It's a full conversation, because I think it's a conversation that we must have. Because a lot of people have this idea that, oh, things are rosy. You don't understand the nitty-gritty and the meaty matter of these things. So sometimes when you hear maybe a nurse or an auxiliary nurse are behaving the way they're behaving, there's a story behind that. So I think that's a conversation for another day.
We're still discussing. No, are we going on a break now?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, are we?
I think.
Well, we're still discussing about, you know, cancer. So, you know, we're talking about, just before we actually go on that break, I talked about, because I hadn't finished my thoughts, oncologists. So apparently there are like 80 clinical oncologists left in Nigeria. That's 80.
How do we want to divide
not 8,000, not 800. 80 clinical oncologists left in the entire country of a population of 200 million, over 200, if we're not even over 250 million already,
so
right?
What's patient ratio to doctor?
Exactly. So, you know, and then you talked about money and all that. The truth is, once a family member or a friend is diagnosed with cancer, then you're one step away from poverty.
Somebody said you are one step away. You are one sickness away from poverty, because when a disease or some kind of diagnosis comes into your life, it can totally drain you in a matter of months, and you're just wondering that so many things that the world is moving towards prevention of some things, we're still grappling with those things.
Even those machines, how many of them are working?
Are available to be used. So half of the time when I think of cancer, I just say, honestly, what Nigerians will always say: God help us.
God help us. I'll be in Nigeria, not now happen to you.
Yeah, I'm in Nigeria now.
That's another thing. That's another thing. But we have had great successes.
Yeah.
I loved watching social media yesterday. I saw a lot of people celebrating their, you know, remission stories. It was so encouraging to see. I was like, God, I've seen people that have been 20 years in remission. You know, those are things that gladden my heart. That shows that, yes, it might be a dastardly disease, a terrible one, but
a lot
people
of people
do survive it. People
All right.
do survive it.
Well, with that, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, you know, we have more conversations on Jasiri. Stay with us.
You're watching Jasiri, and here we like to remind us why access to timely and effective healthcare truly matters. Because in many cases, survival depends on what help is available and how quickly it can be accessed. What are we talking about? We're talking about a conversation we had here on Jasiri on Tuesday with a Aproko doctor following the tragic death of Ifunanya Wangene, who reportedly died after a snake bite when antivenom was unavailable at the hospitals she visited. So since that conversation, there's been a major development. The Nigerian Senate has stepped in, describing the incident as unacceptable and a reflection of deeper gaps in emergency healthcare delivery across the country. And therefore, it has now called for the mandatory stocking of snake antivenom and other life-saving emergency drugs in all hospitals nationwide, both public and private. Lawmakers have also urged the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to immediately develop and enforce national guidelines that will make the availability of antivenom a requirement for hospital licensing and accreditation, particularly for private health facilities.
Well, now the Senate expressed concern over the uneven distribution and frequent unavailability of antivenom, noting that patients are often moved from one hospital to another during emergencies, thereby making them lose precious life-saving time. Now, they further emphasized the need for coordinated emergency response systems, improved funding for emergency medicines, and stronger oversight to ensure hospitals are prepared to handle snake bites cases and similar life-threatening emergencies. Now, the message from the lawmakers was clear. No Nigerian should lose their life due to absence of basic life-saving medication in the hospital. Now let's take some reaction.
We are a reactive country. The problem is never the antivenom. Just imagine we had a great emergency number and trained paramedics who could give first aid before getting to the hospital in time. Why not invest in the healthcare sector? Then you'll be right on track. We love crying over spilled milk by Dokita Tawa. One of the people who spoke about this antivenom mentioned that it is hard to store due to power outages in Nigeria. Hence, it is empty words from Akpabio. They should direct local health governments to procure it and ensure that it is properly stored and readily available in health centers. We also have this one from Haluzin. Is this something they are meant to do now? Isn't this what should have been done a long time ago? But again, it's Nigeria. Medicine after death is their way. Is that the last of them?
Yeah, that's it.
Can you say many of them are out of point?
No.
Honestly, I wonder why we have to get to this point until something major happens. We
it's
never
like,
really see a decisive change. We are all clamoring for this antivenom now. Is this not something every hospital is supposed to have? Even though you're not telling me that we can have snake bites, it could be scorpion. Even abroad, I've seen people that have jellyfish bites and things. And they get to the rescue of it. This is not acceptable. We cannot continue to wait until something major happens.
And then we decide
to legislate. Now decide to legislate and start moving what should have been done. Should hospitals not even be put on the radar?
Will they even
for
follow
not having antivenom?
Will they follow up on it, after, a few days when everything has died down? And this is what we even talked about, yes, it is good on paper, but bring it to life. On the ground, what happens? You're talking about, oh, yes, every hospital must be packed with antivenom and all that. Do we have 24 hours light? What happens? Where do you store it?
Store them.
Okay, so I think this is a hurrah moment for Nigerians, like, oh, finally. But it shouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
We should have access to healthcare. It should be our right. It should be something that shouldn't be, like Lolo said, like you ladies have said, it doesn't have something major or fatal. Didn't need to happen for this to be put on paper. It's one thing now on paper. Somebody raised the point that, listen, you need 24-hour light to be storing these things. How do we provide for that when we don't have 24-hour lights in the country?
And then the grid collapses.
And then the grid collapses. And then you're saying that do it in such a way that the primary healthcare centers are reachable. You can't. They will put money on it.
Are not even equipped for the basic malaria.
I don't even
need the antivenom. I remember when I used to take vaccines for my babies when they were young. We used to go to the healthcare centers. And trust me, they were not pulling it out of a fridge. They were pulling it from ice boxes, you know, coolers that we used to store drink. They would break ice on it. You know, by now you would expect that we would have had an upgrade where there would be freezers or fridges that they can store medication. I don't know what it is like now, but the one I know in Isolo that used to be at the back of like a civic center or a community center. It's not even somewhere, they can't even deliver a goat there, not to talk of a baby.
But where are the nurses? Because most of them, you know, a lot of people have complained that most of them who are mostly interns.
And then that's what we're talking about. The conversation I said we'll have singularly on a day that is that conversation is what we're going to have. When we talk about wages of what is it that you think will make a nurse go the extra mile when her pay is not going the extra mile. Her pay doesn't reflect that she has gone the extra mile. So there's a lot of ripple effect building onto this. You can't say that, okay, you're going to approve that. Okay, so you approve that there's antivenom. You're not, the federal government is not the one going to disburse it. There are people going to disburse it because it's a chain.
And you know that corruption is always at our corruption is always following us.
There will be money slammed on
middlenecks, you know, that
you'll
would
be
want
surprised that they would import these things, and some people hijack it in the middle, and some of the necessary things that should go to different health facilities will go to somebody's warehouse, and in case of emergency, they will be resold.
Okay, now, Lolo, before you
our country.
Before you take us into the next conversation, I just want to say that you will be shocked that we will continue to do what we do as Nigerians. People will go and buy it for themselves and store it by themselves in their freezers, and they will take it to the hospital. If something arises like this, they will take it to the hospital and give the doctor to inject. It's not, that's how we are. Because we want to fix things and move on. Lolo, please take us into the next conversation.
Very, very tiring. Anyway, on Monday here on Jasiri, we had a deep and necessary conversation with constitutional lawyer Liborous Oshoma. We examined the death penalty in Nigeria, why it still exists in our laws, how it is applied, and how the constitutional arguments that keep it functional. But that conversation did not end there. There were questions we needed, more time to unpack. Legal nuances that demanded deeper clarity and uncomfortable truths that could not be rushed. So today, we'll bring you that part 2 of that conversation. In the next segment, Mr. Oshoma, Barrister Oshoma, takes us further into the legal framework, the contradictions within the justice system, and what the future of the death penalty in Nigeria could look like. Please enjoy.
Now, supporters of the death penalty often argue that it deters crime, that the fear of execution keeps others from committing violent acts. But evidence from around the world complicates this claim, and Nigeria's own experience raises difficult questions about whether punishment alone can deliver justice or safety. So let's examine the idea of deterrence, the role of faith and culture, and what it means when the law allows for execution, but the state hesitates to carry it out. Constitutional lawyer Liborous Oshoma is still with us. Liborous, before we go any further, let's hear what Nigerians have to say about the death penalty. This is Jasiri on the Street.
If proper investigation has been done to prove that the person is actually the one that killed the person, that the one is culprit for murder, then I think the person should go for whatever judgment is given.
A crime that takes someone's life, yes, I think death penalty.
There are a lot of crimes that deserve death penalties in Nigeria, so it should not be abolished.
There are some certain crimes you commit. They need to torture you before you die, like real torture, like you deserve it.
If you see cases like that, that somebody that's killed was actually killed, it will help in order to eradicate anybody that has such thoughts.
Life imprisonment, yeah, it could still be alternative. Can still be alternative.
I think there are better ways at handling people's behaviors such that they probably might be should I say, they might not actually do the crime. Like, it's going to be like a deterrent.
Of course, most especially the lazy youths that we have in Nigeria nowadays that want quick money. They vandalize federal government installation, things that will benefit millions of people, so they're cutting them away. And all these kidnappers, they deserve death penalties.
You know, there are some people that they'll rob on a particular crime. You're not the one that did it, but they'll just accuse you. That's the different ballgame. But I'm talking about somebody that has been accused and you have been found guilty. Then you should go for it.
I believe life imprisonment should be kind of like okay, because people could be in prison and still make a meaning of their lives.
Instead of giving somebody life imprisonment, like rape cases, you don't need to give life imprisonment. Incarcerate the person and let him go. Life imprisonment is wasting of government resources.
If a government decides to not take the penalty of death seriously, I don't think they are running from their duties.
I think they are right because we are all human. That human sympathy is always there.
They are avoiding responsibility because they too are committing what can cause death penalty. Because when you stole public fund, it's death penalty.
I know that there are a couple of people who have seen or heard their stories that were like almost in prison for 3 decades, 4 decades, and eventually, because of advancements in legal proceedings and judicial case and forensics, they eventually find them that they actually are now not culpable of those crimes. So imagine if they've been killed, no wrong can be made right anymore.
Thorough investigation should be done before justice of death penalty is passed on anybody.
If you're found guilty, I don't think you should escape that, no. So that's not justifying at all, no.
Is there any credible evidence that the death penalty actually reduces violent crimes? If the deterrence worked, would Nigeria still be dealing with the rising cases of all the violent crimes that we're having, if it has ever worked? Because growing up, I remember I used to watch execution at the bar beach at that time.
What if you have death penalties like we have now, and the death penalties execution is not being carried out? What if you have death penalties and your criminal justice system like we have now also is wishy-washy? In cases where the cases are in court and you hear that the prosecutor will say, well, my witness is not in court, and in some cases they say prosecutor the IPO has been transferred, and then the DPP's advice takes eternity to come, and in some cases can even be compromised. So no matter the punishment for crime in such scenario, it becomes very difficult for you to actually deter crime and criminality. And that's why people can just take up arms against the state, and people will listen to them and tell you, oh, it's not the first to do it. What we need to do first and foremost is to strengthen our laws and the enforcement of these laws. Once you do that, people know that there are consequences for every action. That alone will deter crime. Then you now begin to talk about the severity of the punishment. A situation where somebody would steal ₦1 billion and that will directly lead to the death of so many because there is no direct link, there's no direct evidence to that death. You say, well, he can go for 5 years imprisonment. But somebody who kills another, and you say, oh, death penalty. So it is all of this that is also affecting people's perception of this penalty. And that's why in China, for example, they tell you, you know, it's even worse for you when you steal public fund.
Yeah.
That's because for them, the implication, you know, the far-reaching implication is that that public fund would probably have led to the death of somebody.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, so that one carries death penalty, and people are happy that when you mismanage a public authority, then certainly you should go in for it. And that's what deters crime and criminality, not when you say, oh, death penalty in your books, but in your law to even investigate and convict somebody of the death penalty. It's a different ball game altogether. So that's where we need to marry the two. Societies where the prisons are, you know, few. Like you go to the Netherlands, you hear that, you know.
And they said they were closing down prisons.
They're closing down prisons because...
Norway or Sweden, one of them, yeah.
Yes, because in those societies, the taxes, for example, was very high. But even the money you earn, you hardly do anything with it because the state takes responsibility for everything. So there will be no need for you to even want to commit crime. And when you commit crime, you're taken to the correctional center and you're appropriately corrected.
Rehabilitated, yes.
So that way, the society is sane. And but when you have a capitalist society like ours, where the craze is to make money and just make it irrespective of how you make it, people are going to cut corners, people are going to kill others, and then government also insensitivity to the plight of the everyday person. So that's where I think we actually need to draw the line and find a way to create a bridge where the people would actually feel governance. When you people feel governance, you don't need all of this.
When you talk about people, feeling governance, and also, you talked about severity of punishment earlier. Could harsh punishment distract, from addressing root causes like poverty, trauma, and also weak policing? Are we mistaking severity of punishment for effectiveness of justice?
No. First and foremost, a hungry man is an angry man. An angry man also is deprived of the complete, sense of reasonability. Because in most cases, that anger takes over. He just wants to do what he needs to. It is after, just like a bank account, when you withdraw, you lose interest. It is when you're done that, it dawns on you that, what have I done? Just like the Garden of Eden. Oh, when
after the
Adam
eating of the apple.
Suddenly remember that he was naked. So, consequently also, here, when society fails to provide for its own, and then you have, like Fidel Castro once said, in a land of lawlessness, becomes illegal to be law-abiding. So you now ask yourself, what is the law? And that's why Kanu and the market protesters will tell you, Omotosho, show me the law. Governor Soludo, show me the law. So what is the law? A situation where you say, do as I say, not as I do. So where lies the law, first and foremost? So you need to enforce the law, inclusive of you. Let it be applicable across the board.
All.
That way, you now begin to say, well, that's why some people will say, if he can apply the law to himself, then who you be? But when the law is selective, the justice is not blind, it sees. Then no matter the penalties, no matter the deterrence, people are still going to do it any which way. Because they will look at how I can compromise the law, I can compromise the system, and ensure that I go scot-free. And because that man who is going to enforce also is hungry, is not taken care of by the society, by the same system. The policeman is not properly catered for, and you are asking him to investigate a crime of 2 billion. The day the man hears the money, 2 billion. If only I get 100 million from this. And then they give him 100 million. He says, don't worry. This is the beginning of the end of this case. Because the society has refused to provide for him. And then also, because the society has refused to provide for him, you are now asking him to go and enforce a law for the society. And you say, oh, death penalty. And he looks, the man who took 2 billion that led to the death of so many, what have we done to him? So these are the questions that the society first needs to answer before you begin to talk about, oh, how do we ensure that the law? But the law is still the law. Like we say, dura less, said less. The law is strict, but it's still the law. But it is the application of the law that's usually the problem. And because we say human beings are infallible, and so because of that. But if you agree that once you are placed on a position of a responsibility, and that responsibility includes you and the larger society, and we also don't operate a system where everybody, once you're in that position of responsibility, you deprive everybody, and then they come to you to ask for just a little handout. And then you're the only man with, who sit on top as the king. So that's why consistently implementing the laws in our climate becomes very difficult. Because what we have now, we've transmuted from, a monarchy system to a political monarchy, where we have tenured kings, you know? And then, because in our society, we had this mentality of the king can do no wrong.
Yes, we transferred it from our culture
We transferred that mentality from our cultural belief to a political lifestyle. And then you now have, do you know who I am? Oh. He's the king. So, but we forget that in the ancient philosophy, the king is supposed to be unknowing. He's supposed to be above board. He's supposed to be a philosopher. That's why he's a philosopher king. And at that level, he should understand the law and how to apply it. And there should be checks, like the Yomesis.
Yes.
There should be checks. But here, we have completely forgotten those checks. And then we've forgotten what the king must be, the position he must attain before he becomes a king. And so anybody who wears a crown is now labeled a king. So a fool can become a king. And then you now ask him to come and enforce the law.
You know, barrister. Wait. I know you're about to. You know that example you gave about the handouts? I remember hearing members of the National Assembly talk about how Nigerians come to ask them for school fees, ask them for hospital fees, ask them for all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, you sit to make the laws so that they wouldn't have to come to ask you. But many of them like the status quo. But let's talk about our leaders a little bit more. So we heard how Nigerians feel about the death penalty, and we know that Nigeria is a deeply religious and culturally diverse country. For many, views on the death penalty are shaped not by law books, but by faith, tradition, and moral belief systems. And it's not just the people who feel this way. It's the leaders too. Nigeria's last known judicial execution was carried out on December 23rd, 2016 in Benin City, where 3 inmates were hanged for murder and armed robbery. While death sentences are still regularly imposed by courts, the country has maintained a de facto moratorium on executions since that time. Governors are simply not signing. It is said that this reluctance is tied to personal discomfort with capital punishment, moral or religious objections, and pressure from the international community regarding potential judicial errors. And this reluctance has led to a massive overcrowding on death row across the country, with many governors preferring to commute sentences to life imprisonment rather than authorizing executions. So, Liborous, my big question to you, is it not their responsibility to carry out what the law says? And if we have a situation where we have a de facto moratorium on capital punishment on the death penalty, why do we still have it on the books? What do you make of this sort of moralistic, religious conundrum our governors seem to find themselves in?
Why you still have it, let me start from why you have it in the books. Deaths, people are being executed daily. Forget the court pronouncement. I read to you, I said sometimes in execution of a court order or to quell riots, to stop unlawful, escape. So in some cases, you hear that armed robbers were killed summarily. And then they hide under those provisos in Section 33 to say they were trying to escape. After all, the man is dead, so they can't speak for himself. They were trying to escape. They can even drop guns close to them. And that's why Michael Kiro, when he was Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, once said, look, if a policeman who is drunk with a gun asks you, even as a lawyer, to jump inside the gutter, please. Because at that point, if the man kills you, we will say it's accidental discharge. Or we'll say it was, you were trying to escape. They can say you even, we were engaged in a gun duel with them. So they still hide under that section. That's why you still have it in our books. But the one that they say, okay, yes, the court has passed this one. Let the governor, sign a death certificate. They hardly do that because we want to be moral. We are more Catholics than the Pope in this part of the world. And we are highly religious, but less godly. And it brings me back to the issue of coming to beg for handouts. And I said it before, if you provide society with governance and you provide a system where the society will thrive on the structure of government, security and welfare of the people, you won't have people coming to beg you. You won't have people reverencing you as if you are a god. But because we have that mentality of, oh, look, if I do all of this, we'll all be on the same level. Why will I be that ordinary man? Why should I be on the same pedestrian with him? So I need to make things a bit difficult. And that one is even worse than some of the crime that, you know, will pass death sentence on. So that's why even the politicians now are telling you, no, so we are all humans. You see, yes, to err is human, to forgive divine.
Wow.
Even some of our churches, some of the atrocities they commit is worse than the ordinary stealing or armed robbery that you say, okay, yes, because if you go steal with firearms, maybe somebody died in the process, they're committed to death. You know, there's some crime that you can't actually, you know, identify the victim, but there are so many victims of this crime in the society. And one of them is, you know, when a society consistently, you know, reorientate the mind and make people believe that it is no longer fashionable to work hard for money. And that if you make money, any which way you make the money, it's okay. And that's why people can kill young girls thinking that it will give them money for ritual. People can kidnap and then, you know, believing that when ransom are paid, they make money and then use the money anyhow. Society, there are no consequences for it. Now, even that kidnapping, in most of the states where the penalty for kidnapping is death penalty, it still has not deterred that, unlike where properties are destroyed.
You know,
you tell a landlord that if your property is used
for criminal activity,
that property will be destroyed. That when you say somebody will be the consequence of if it is that the person would die, a lot of people, that one deters people even more than when you say penalty.
You know, I was just going to ask you.
So these are some of the issues that the society, you know, projects, but the society in itself is the one, you know, fighting against what it should be projected.
You know, I was just going to ask, but you've just, because I was thinking of, are there viable alternatives, you know, to death penalties that exist within the Nigerian legal system? Because if truly this death penalty we're advocating for is truly abolished and removed from our books, what would need to be put there? Would the law, maybe the only thing that would be an option would be that life sentence, life imprisonment?
First thing, like I've always said, there are so many options, alternative to death penalty. Even the man who's passing the death penalty, in some cases, if you beam a searchlight on him, he's not supposed to be alive also. Yes, I'm telling you, because, you know, so what we first need to do is to ensure that there is equality. If the rule of law is strictly enforced, some of these punishments will not be necessary. There should be equality. If there is equality in the society and everybody gets according to what the law has said, you won't even need some of this punishment. And I gave you an instance with, you know, when governors said we are going to demolish houses that are used as criminal hideout. But you find out, it brings me now back to the issue of morality. Oh no, now, are you not a Christian? Are you not a Muslim? Forgive and forget. The Bible and Quran preaches forgiveness. Oh, it is the son that committed the crime, not the father. Why are you punishing the father for this? Oh, this man spent all his life savings to build this house. In some cases, you even see your sons doing these things and you look the other way.
You look the other way.
So, some of such instances where the law is enforced to the latter, there are no abexa, there are no cutting corners. Those can actually deter you that you don't even need people to go to prison. We've seen cases where, especially when you know that it's only poor people that go to prison. I'm not saying there shouldn't be prison because there are some people who shouldn't live with humans.
Normal people.
And we should learn to ensure that these laws are enforced, because somebody who kills another, for example, why should I say he shouldn't be killed? Because when you kill that person, it's gone, it's gone. But if you keep him in confinement for the rest of his life, that alone will serve as a better deterrence than when the person is killed. Yes. But you also now find out that even the prisons, where somebody's in prison and they are making calls, in some cases, they go out of the prison to commit another crime. So in such situation, people will say, you know what? I don't want a situation where this man is a terror And if you keep that person in prison, he's going to commit another crime because the prisons are not strong enough to keep them. Yeah. So just, eliminate them, take them off the surface of the earth. But when you have prisons that you hear of people saying Guantanamo Bay, but yet it is still there. And you hear of people saying, oh, there is a prison on the island that even if you escape from the prison,
can't get through
you can't get through the water, you can't get out. So in such cases, you say, yes, the prison is enough to hold these persons. But there are cases where even your prisons here...
Have we even built new prisons recently?
None. There was a time we mooted the idea of private partnership. Yeah. Where people can build prisons and then, government will pay.
That takes the American model, which is not... you now get a society to prison pipeline because you want them, they're making money.
People have their own private prison, I can tell you. That's why they tell you. Yes, in Nigeria, depending on how strong you are. That's why you hear that National Union of Road Transport Workers had some of their members and kept them somewhere, and you wouldn't know. So you hear some people have dungeons in their house, they dig a hole, and then keep some people there. So in a law where the loopholes are more, the loopholes against the law are more than the law, and people can actually cut corners, then it becomes difficult to advocate for one thing. Like I said, if you say eradicate, and then your prison is not enough to
hold them.
Yeah, we already have over 3,000.
Imagine somebody in Warri prison going to commit a crime in Benin. And you ask yourself, how did he get out? And there's nobody's punished. There's investigation, and then once the boss dies on the social media, he ends there. And so he's on death row, he's out of prison committing another crime. And, so all of these things, the society. So in some cases, you just say, you know what, these people, you need to remove all of these people from the face of the earth. But the next question is, what if this person is actually, innocent? Oh, so it's the chicken and egg. It's a consistent debate that you're going to look at, and depending on the perspective you're looking at, actually.
Wow. All right.
Our final question.
Okay, so our final question. Can life imprisonment truly serve justice, for extreme crimes? Does removing the death penalty mean being soft on crime also?
I remember in 2002, somebody asked me similar questions. No, yes, 2002. And I said, it depends. And the man started calling me, it depends. He said, all my questions, all these questions to me are usually always, it depends. So it depends on the scenario. We're talking about safe, protected prison, and where truly actions can be corrected, correctional centers, where you say, okay, for minor offenses, these ones can be corrected. Yeah. For maximum offenses, then, behaviors are reviewed, paroles are granted, society can accept you back. And in some cases, even when the society accepts you back, it becomes very difficult to even cope with such society. But it keeps deteriorating by the day. So you now begin to ask, yes, if the prisons are actually correctional centers, and if the prisons are actually prisons, in the word properly so called, then you can say they will act as deterrent. We've seen countries where, it's acting as deterrent. Even people are so comfortable that, stealing is unattractive to them. The government makes life so comfortable that taking another's thing is unattractive. Yeah. Because the consequences, the penalty for it is very, very strict, and there is no abexer. Because they say to whom much is given, much is expected. But when the society fails you abysmally, society also now creates a loophole for you to escape. Yeah. So in such cases, no punishment can be effective enough.
Well, I don't think this conversation is going to end today because we did hit the streets to find out what Nigerians said. And as insecurity and other crimes, violent crimes, seem to become the order of the day, Nigerians will continue to have a conversation about the presence of the death penalty in our laws. And I wonder who's going to be strong enough to even say that our Constitution needs to also be revised to remove the death penalty. Governors are not signing, but Nigerians don't seem to be actively interested in also removing the death penalty. It's a conversation and debate that will continue for some time. Barrister Liborous Oshoma, thank you so much, constitutional lawyer, for joining us. Always ready to help us break it down to make sense of the legality of things in Nigeria. We'll wrap the conversation up here today. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Jasiri.
Very interesting conversation we had with Barrister Oshoma on whether we still needed to have, the death penalty in laws or not. He made a lot of valuable points that I said, true. In Nigeria, our justice system can be very slow. Imagine if they made an error and they've already executed someone. Such things can actually make you, take a pause. I want to allow time to marinate and just steam before you take such a final decision. Yeah, and most of the time, we did know that it doesn't deter crime, Abby. Even if they let them kill people that are caught in the act every single day. Sometimes it doesn't deter crime. It doesn't completely deter crime. So I'm on the fence when it comes to death penalty, actually. But I would say that if I'm going to take the death penalty away, maybe if you were caught in the act, like you killed someone, and there is no doubt. There are situations that you say reasonable doubt, some circumstances that led to the shooting.
Manslaughter or something. Even at that, you can still appeal the death penalty.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is where we will have to draw the curtain on the show for today. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined in. The talk and conversation surrounding the death penalty is not one that we can exhaust today. It is something that we'll always be coming back to here on Jasiri, because what is Jasiri without these kinds of conversations? We will see you tomorrow. It's Hot Topics Friday. Ha ha! It's gonna be
Friday already.
Friday.
Goodbye, guys.